A question I hear almost every day is, why has that listing been on the market so long? Why has it been sitting there and it hasn't sold? Like, it seems like it's an okay price, but it's been on the market for 100 days. I don't understand why it hasn't sold. So I want to give you some of the answers I tell buyers when they ask me, why is a house not sold? Because it doesn't automatically mean because it's been on the market for a long time that something's wrong with it. It does mean it's stigmatized. It doesn't necessarily mean that something is wrong with it. So let's talk through what the different reasons a house could be on the market for a long time and has not sold. Number one, the first reason that homes, and the most likely reason that homes have not sold and are still on the market, is because either they're currently priced or they started at a price that was too high. If a house starts at too high of a price to begin with, then all the buyers kind of skip over it at the beginning. Now the price is getting lower, or it's getting a little bit closer to what it should sell at. The price that it started at was already too high to attract buyers. And by the time it got past 20, 30, 40 days, buyers kind of weren't paying attention to it as much. It wasn't showing as high in the Zillow search rankings or the other website search rankings. And so not as many buyers saw it, and it didn't get as much attention. And then people like you who are asking me this question are starting to think something must be wrong with that house. It hasn't sold yet. So the second reason is price is still too high. And sometimes it's because the market is adjusting. Now, the market always naturally adjusts. It's almost like seasonal peak around May or June. The prices kind of max out, and then they trickle downward for the rest of the year. And the lowest prices of the year are usually December. The highest price that you'll see in the year is the middle of the year, a few $1,000s. It's sometimes not a big deal. Sometimes the mountain of price adjustment is like real flat, like just a tiny little peak in May or June. That peak is a little bit more pronounced. And so you get like a 4, 5, 10% drop. And if you're not adjusting your price fast enough, you kind of get put to the back of the line. You got to be ready to be the buyer, the next buyer's choice, which means you got to be the prettiest, you got to be the best presented, and you got to have reasonably the best price relative to your condition and your pricing. The third reason, though, is there's legitimately something wrong with the house. Now, something wrong could be just a perception of wrong, or it could be something that is actually something that's going to cost you money. So perception of wrong would be like the house's floor plan's a little bit weird and maybe it feels weird, or maybe the blinds had all been pulled and so it felt dark whenever people showed it and they said, oh, this house isn't very bright and light. Well, it just didn't show very bright and light. Or maybe the appliances aren't as nice as what you'd expect for that price range. Or maybe there's a busy road next to it or behind it. Or sometimes it's something more significant, like there's cracks in the walls and people are not sure what the significance of those cracks are. Do they mean foundation? Is this something simple and cheap? Or something like the house appears to be old and need lots of renovation. Now, it's especially important, and I could almost call this my fourth point. The fourth reason that homes sometimes sit on the market is because buyers are worried that the house needs more work than it might need. Sometimes it needs lots of work, sometimes it doesn't. But either way, the buyer's perception is it needs lots of work, and that can kind of scare them away. Many times, buyers in their minds, and honestly, cost of construction and renovation's gone up. So in their minds, they raise the price of what those will cost. And then they factor in stress and I don't want to have to deal with that factor. And all of a sudden they're like, can't afford it. Don't want to buy it. The seller's perspective is not that expensive, not that big of a deal. This house is great. We've loved the house. Oh my gosh. The neighbors are amazing. The convenience to the stores and the other amenities is amazing. The yard's awesome. Like, they're thinking about the love they have for the house and the unique value that home provides to their family, and they're not thinking about those costs, or they're not really judging it appropriately, so they may not be willing to actually price their home for what the buyers perceive as a lot of expenses. Another reason that sometimes homes are just not selling when they've been on the market for a while is because they're caught in a price range. There's several different reasons why it could be caught in one of these price ranges, but they're caught in a trap price range where there's buyers above that price range and there's buyers below the price range, but there's not a lot of buyers in that price range. Other thing, and this is way more nuanced, but I've seen this to be true. There are in areas, there are income ranges that are more standardized and common. And sometimes there's like single income, like what does a single professional make? And then sometimes it's double income, what's a double professional make? Or what do higher level professionals make in this area, single and double? And those incomes will often dictate sort of what range people are buying in. So we saw this in one of our neighborhoods where if you were selling a house under 700,000, lots of activity. And if you were selling a house over 850,000, lots of activity. But if you were selling in the 700 to 850 range, it was like crickets. They're like, why are all the under 700 houses selling? And what we realized was incomes. People that had plenty of income to afford over $1 million, they were going and looking at houses that had plenty of options that fit what they were looking for. And many times that was 1.1, 1.2, like they weren't looking down to 850. But if you were someone that was like just starting your jobs and you're just trying to scrape by and make it work, and maybe you haven't saved a ton of money yet and you're trying to figure it out, you were looking up to 700, like 650, 700. And so then there was this like gap where naturally there weren't as many buyers because their incomes didn't hit it. Now, the final thing that I'll tell you is a reason why homes sit on the market for a number of days. It was because the photos were terrible. Nobody had had seen it. Like they looked at the photos and they kind of assumed it was a dump. They assumed there was something wrong with it. And this happens all the time. This does not present the home well. One, it doesn't present the home well as the value that it might be trying to get. Like if you're trying to get the best price, you got to present the home with amazing professional photos that show the angles and help them understand the flow of the house and help them to picture themselves there and imagine it as a beautiful home. That you got to raise the perception of value and uniqueness that people perceive about that house in the way that you do video and photo and description and how you bring it all together. And like we look at ourselves like a marketing media team. Like we want to make our listings look awesome. So reach out to us if you're thinking about selling and you want to make sure your home gets the highest price possible in the shortest amount of time. And of course, there's other non-traditional ways to sell a home too. If you need cash offers or if you're looking for selling something off market, or if you've got any questions about how to make sure you don't become the stigmatized home that's been on the market too long, call us and we'll talk through it. We'll make a plan. My name is Matt Templeton. I'm a real estate broker at Keller Williams Realty at Templeton Real Estate Group in Dallas, Fort Worth. And if you have any questions, even if you're thinking about selling or buying in another part of the country, we've got some amazing partners. We've hand-selected partners in different parts of the country. I'd love to connect you with one of my friends who's also thinking in the same vein. Anyway, hope this was helpful. It's just a question I want to answer. I get it all the time, so I figured I'd tell you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.